Okay, everyone, I'm joined today by Brendan Shipton. Brendan is the promoter of True Fight Series, and they are scheduled for their fourth event on March 15th. Brendan, you want to tell me a little bit about that event, man, where it's going to be at, all that?
Yeah, man. It's gonna be at the Pontotoc Agriculture Center. The doors will open at 5. The fights will start at 6. It's gonna be a pretty interesting card because normally we do boxing and kickboxing. We got one MMA fight going on, so it's gonna be pretty interesting. Typically, you see MMA in MMA ring, such as a cage. This time, it's in a boxing ring, so it's gonna be kind of unique, a little bit different for the crowd to see.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Talk to me about this. This is something me and you have discussed at length over the phone and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
what's in your first couple of events here? Tell me just a couple of things, just, surface level. They don't have to get too deep on numbers or anything like that. But what have you learned about promoting?
Wow. Well, I tell you what, it ain't for everybody.
I know.
It's his own beast. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a lot of unsung heroes that are involved. Um, it's a well-oiled machine, and it has to be.
Yeah.
You got a lot of people that are involved that don't normally get the credit. I may be the promoter and the owner, but man, without your event coordinator, without uh, fighters that actually want to be on the card, that are reliable, people that make weight,
Yep.
a good streaming service, man, your ring building people, it just don't work out, man. And a lot of people underestimate what all goes into promoting an event like that. So,
Yep.
especially the matchmaking side of things.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of behind the scenes. One thing you do really quickly is you do weed out who's really with you. You know,
yeah,
there's stuff that's got to be done, and there's stuff that you have to delegate and trust other people to handle
absolutely.
certain roles and stuff like that. So you're not going to lone wolf it. You do need a team. You need a support system around you, and
Yeah,
so there's a lot of unsung heroes. You're not lying about that, and there's so many aspects and moving parts of it that make it all come together. But you find
right.
out very early who you can and cannot rely on for certain
Absolutely.
things. So
Yeah, man. And I noticed, especially throughout, my first calendar year of being a promoter, your circle changes
mhm.
quick.
Yep.
like like who you do rely on, like you said,
Yep.
and the people will be like, "Hey, man, I love you, brother, but this ain't the job for you. I can't
Yep.
rely on you for this.
Yep.
Uh, I got to move on."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, being able to remove or separate, I should say, separate friendships from business. You know what I'm saying? I
absolutely.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
uh, promoters or starting out promoters or guys who have been doing it a couple of years, it's a business and you're trying to make this your livelihood. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so that you're
Yeah.
trying to make this your livelihood full time and you want to be all in on everything you do. So when friendships get merged in that, it gets a little tricky.
Mhm.
I've gotten to the point now where I've been doing it a while, and I can remove all those. I can keep all those completely separate. You could be my
Right.
friend and love me to death and have nothing to do with my promotion, and that's totally
Right.
fine. Well, I can separate those two things, and my personal life and business life are completely separate. Um,
Right.
but that's just something that's where it's been a learning experience for myself over the events is like, look, man, I'm friends with a lot of people in a lot of different aspects of life that have nothing to do with the fight business. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
you know, so I expect nothing out of anybody. This is something that ultimately the responsibility falls on me to get
Hmm.
everything done. So
Right.
if I people they decide their own level of involvement. If they prove
Yeah.
themselves reliable and they want to be more and more involved, then as the
Hmm.
events go on, they get more and more involved. They get more
Right.
behind the scenes and stuff like that. But some people just want to show up on fight night and have a good time. That's fine too. That's okay too.
Right.
That's the
Right.
capacity that they're involved in, no problem. So,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure anything. I think you said your family runs a restaurant. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we got a restaurant in Maben, Mississippi. It's called Betty's Place.
Mhm.
It's a nice little establishment. Got a little fireplace, entertainment center. We got live music there. It's a pretty chill spot.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yep.
and relay into that, I'm sure they know about family and friends and business and keeping stuff
Oh
separate over
yeah,
the years and stuff like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
Let me tell you, man,
yeah,
you gotta learn how to operate with the right people and
yeah,
kindly separate yourself from the people that don't need to be doing that type
mhm,
of stuff.
yeah,
You know, basically just keep things professional with the professional people and then be like, hey, man, be honest with yourself and be
mhm,
honest with the people that want to be involved. Like, hey, are you all in or are you going to be half in? Because
mhm.
if you're half in, I probably don't need you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, sure,
It,
man.
it's it's definitely a difficult situation at times and a difficult conversation that you have to have, but you have to have them.
No
You
doubt.
have to have them.
Yeah, good point. I've had many of them, and
Yeah,
you do have to have them.
mhm,
The rubber meets the road eventually on certain aspects and categories, I'll say. But
absolutely.
hey, besides being a promoter, you are also a coach. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit. Let's talk about the creation of Silverback MMA, boxing and MMA, and fighters along the way, and just talk to me about being a coach also while you're promoting.
Well, let me tell you, being a coach and being a promoter, you gotta love this business. You really do. You don't do both and just not love it because there's just too much work involved. No one's going to do this stuff for fun. They got to be passionate about it and they got to be real about it.
Mhm.
And when it comes to coaching and promoting, you got to kind of separate the two, right? So
Sure.
as a coach, when you're a promoter and a coach, it's important that you're putting your fighters on other people's cards and letting them prove themselves off of your card,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, like for me, I've always brought my guys down to your guys' event,
Mhm.
Southern Hand Slugfest. Like, hey man, win knockout of the night out there, win championships out there, then come on my card and prove the same thing.
Yeah.
That way people can get a good, honest opinion about you as a promoter too. Be
Sure.
like, hey, he won out there and he wins over here. It's
Mhm.
not just like, he's losing out there and he's winning on my promotion. He's winning at both, or he's losing at both, you know. So it makes you out to be a good matchmaker and a good promoter.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not one-sided.
For sure. And one-sided, that's a great word. We all know about A sides and B sides in the fight
Yeah.
business. So, since day one, part of my pre-fight speech on fight night has always been anybody can stay in their hometown and be
Hmm.
buddies with their promoters or their promoters, their
Exactly.
trainer, and rack up a record and wins and all that. So I admire
Right.
everybody for stepping outside their comfort zone because you're not going to get shown any favoritism and you're just
Yeah.
going to have to earn it. You're just going to have to earn it no matter how long I've known you, whether I've known you
Yeah.
5 minutes or 5 years, your path's
Yeah.
going to be just as difficult.
Right.
Try to always hold up that unbiased marker that we've set at Southern Hand Slugfest. And so when fighters do get out of their backyard, say they
Mhm.
have 4 or 5 fights under the same banner promotion, and then they
Yeah.
come to me and all that. I admire that a lot because I know it's real easy to stay in your hometown and just
Oh
do what
yeah.
you're familiar with and
Yeah.
not operate outside of that scope. And so
Right.
entering the unknown, something I admire a lot and taking that
Right.
chance. So you're right in the growth and development of a fighter because eventually, what are you working towards? Maybe you're working towards turning pro, or maybe
Yeah.
you're working towards being in the UFC one day. Well, yeah, you're not going to get protected there. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So when you get in the
No.
big leagues, you'll get exposed. You'll get exposed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, are you going to be 8-0 at home and 8-0 down the road, or are you going to be 8-0 at home and then like 5-5 on another promotion?
sure,
You know,
yeah,
you got a lot of people that, man, they may be like 4-0 for one company, but then they go around in Slugfest and realize, hey man, I got 4 fights in one night.
yeah,
I can't hang with these guys.
yeah,
And I think that's another thing too, is like People underestimate what Southern Hand Slugfest really is.
Oh
They
yeah.
Some people think, oh, it's just a tough man. It's a little more than that.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not like the original tough man. You got actually trained, actually well documented fighters out there that have
Mhm.
proven themselves on other promotions, and then they come at Slugfest and see who can duke it out the best. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
that's
whole
really what
different thing.
Slugfest is.
Absolutely. It's a whole different thing. It's a whole different format. It's a
Yeah,
entirely different animal. And
yeah.
I could go on forever about people underestimating Slugfest, or they came in with a certain name or certain accomplishments under their belt, which
Hmm.
within its own right deserves praise and all that. But uh,
Absolutely.
you leave that at the door when you enter here, because this is a whole nother thing, and it's shown itself over and over and over again. I've
Right.
had guys who train out of their garage beat guys with 10 MMA fights. And,
Oh
and,
yeah,
and, and it's just a whole different thing. So, but we welcome all challengers, and that's part of the DNA of it.
yeah,
Is the interesting aspect of you. I I know who you think who the favorite is, and then you get surprised. It happens all the time. Where
yeah.
I had an event, I will never forget it. I had one event where I had it was the most I ever had in one bracket. I had six lightweight champions in one bracket. These are guys who had shown up, had fought, and it went 4-0 in one night. I had six different lightweight champions in one bracket, and a debut won the whole thing that night.
Holy
So
cow.
that's what I'm kind of talking about, you only know what you know. But what about the names
Yeah,
you don't know? So,
right.
it's always an interesting thing. But yeah, yeah. So juggling being a coach and a promoter, I know that's difficult and that's a lot. And you do have to
Mhm.
have a lot of passion and fire for the
Yeah,
business and for the game to do that. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I'd say very few actually do it without a full coaching staff, especially.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible without one, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And that's me speaking from experience.
Where did you go from just training one guy to I think I can open up a gym and take on a stable of fighters and kind of be a coach and manager at the same time? When was that jump, man? For it's one thing to train your buddy or train a friend or help somebody out or hold mitts for
Mhm.
somebody, but when did you go, I think I want to actually actually make this a gym and a team and stuff like that? When was that jump for you?
I tell you what, when people actually started getting a little more serious about training,
Hmm.
and actually wanting to hit me up and wanting to start group training. You know what I mean? Because I started training people. Okay, his schedule works for this, so I can train him on this time. It would just be me and that person. And then, like, okay, this guy will come in, I'll train him one on one. Now, I will tell you this, training people one on one, you tend to see a different growth, because like when you have a group, you kind of chop up your you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
where you kind of sharing
Yeah.
your knowledge with multiple people versus like all my knowledge is going right into this person.
Yeah.
Everything I'm teaching is going right to this person, you
Yeah,
know.
it's a quality versus quantity thing. When you
Yeah,
can give one guy 110%.
yeah, versus like five guys.
Sure, sure. And it
Yeah,
demands a lot of you. And you don't train everybody the same. I mean, there's a couple of
no,
common denominators that do lateral over. Like, man, you got to do your road work. You got to do certain things. But
yeah,
different fighters have different styles, man, and different training
yeah,
methods, and they take to some things better than other things. So,
and they
um,
have different talents too. I mean,
sure,
I got um shoot, Brandon Conway fights totally different than Corey Doty. You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they're two totally different weight classes. They're two totally different body types. So one's going to move differently than the other. And you got to, as a coach, this is something that I learned and it's very interesting. You don't teach them how you fight. You teach them how they fight,
Yep,
how they truly fight.
yep.
You know,
Mhm.
you as a coach, you show them who they are as a fighter,
Sure.
and it's kind of like a discovery between the fighter and the coach. Like, hey man, like
Yep,
this is you. Like this is really who you are. You're the hard hitting Texan,
yep.
Brandon Conway. Like,
Sure.
and this is how we develop you as a fighter.
Mhm. Yeah,
You
and
know?
guys when they come to you naturally, they're going to have strengths and weaknesses that start to
Oh,
emerge.
for sure.
So every fighter's different. Every fighter's different. You're not going to train everybody the same. But yeah, that's a very good, interesting aspect of it. Hey, let's talk about this. Me and you talked about this a lot actually, and it's
Mhm.
a fun topic. But
Yeah.
being profitable and marketable as a
Yeah.
fighter, getting opportunities and getting on cards as you get your name out there and the phone starts to ring or
Hmm.
messages start to ding. Talk about like, learning the game and the business side of it and all that and to really get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, man. Just maybe some of the out of the ring stuff and between
Hmm.
events and opportunities and all that. Talk to me about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a promoter, you tend to feel like a parrot talking about this because you talk to like 30, 40, 50 guys at one time about
Mhm.
that. Every card that you throw be like, hey man, if you really want to be good at this and you really want to go to a pro level at this, you got to learn how to sell tickets. You got to learn how to be marketable. And the biggest thing about that is learning how to talk to people, changing your circle. Who do you talk to? Where do you come from? When you're that poor kid that comes from the street and typically your people can't afford a ticket, hey man, it's time to say goodbye to them people. I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that you can't be their friends. It don't mean that you can't hang out, but kind of separate yourself and try to meet new people that can afford to buy a ticket. Meet some business owners, get in tight with them, uh, get them to buy a table and come and see you and really invest their time into seeing what you do for a living. If you really want to be a fighter, you got to learn how to market yourself in a way that draws a crowd, that
Mhm.
makes the promoter money. Because as a promoter, why do I want you on the card? You know what I mean? Because fighting well isn't everything. Sometimes as a promoter, you gotta make the sacrifice of, well, this guy fights well, but this guy sells tickets.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you still have an overhead that you got to cover.
Yeah.
So, and
Sure.
that's what a fighter may or may not understand. So when you do understand that as a fighter, you make it a lot better in this business.
Yeah.
Um, that's what separates amateur and pro, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
is knowing the business side and being a good fighter, and not knowing the business side and being a good or bad fighter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing the business side. Like you said, talking to people is important.
Yeah.
I talk to guys, this. I talk to so many fighters and deal with hundreds upon thousands of fighters from all over and stuff like that. And I
Right.
can always tell what kind of marketer they are of themselves or what kind of um even if you only sell a couple of tickets, that's okay. I'm big on effort. I'm big on
Oh yeah.
effort. That's why I'm big on sharing posts and liking posts and
Well, that
you know, let me tell you
and
what
that's
kryptonite to my ears is. I can't stand
mm,
it is I've had a couple of guys over the years reach out to me. They don't want anybody to know they're competing. There you go. Okay, that's not going to work for me,
yeah.
bud. You need to find somebody else to fight for. That's not going to work for me. Hey, keep it hush, man. I don't really want to,
Yeah.
I just want to kind of see what I can do in this. And I said, it's not going to work, unfortunately, man. I'm not going to be able to have you in this. The word promote, what does the word promote mean? Like, what's the
Right.
actual what, you know what I mean? So it's like, man, that is not going to work. That's never going to fly. So,
Yeah.
everybody, whether you have good or bad relationships with your family, your friends, your coworkers, and all that, everybody knows people.
Hmm.
And the promotion wants to give you an opportunity to showcase your skills and your hard work. So, a way you can pay the promotion back is by spreading word, making
Yeah.
posts, being marketable, letting
Hmm.
everyone know you're competing. Hey, man, come watch me.
Right.
I'm fighting. I'm the fifth fight on this card, but there's 12 fights in total. It's going to be great, man. And look on YouTube. This is that last promotions event. Here it is. You can see it was exciting. It was a good time. They have me matched up against somebody and just come out and support me. And I just really appreciate it because any fighter who's been inside those ropes, they know what it's like when you have a big support system present and you hear the crowd cheering for you and making noise for you. When you have people there watching you, supporting you, it makes a big difference, And I've
Right.
dealt with guys who have large followings, and that they always say to me, "Man, it makes a big having a lot of people there for them makes a big difference." So, but you separate guys really quickly on some guys don't care if nobody's there to watch them; they just want to
Yeah.
fight. which is okay.
Mhm.
They're fighters at heart and all that. But like you said, to get more and more opportunities to make yourself more marketable and be well rounded in and outside the ring as a fighter and understanding the business side of stuff,
Right.
you kind of need to be the total package. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
now? And
And to be honest with you, and this is a message to those that want to go pro, or maybe it went pro too early or whatever. Um, Kind of be honest to where you're at as an athlete and where
sure.
you're at on your ticket sales.
Hmm.
Like, you got to be honest with yourself when it comes
Yeah.
to that before you even consider a professional debut, or trying to do this for a paycheck. you
Yeah.
know you got to be knowing what you're worth as a fighter.
Yeah.
Like, if you work a 40-hour a week job and this is what you're used to making,
Hmm.
well, if you're looking to go full-time fighting, well, full-time fighters in the gym full time.
Yep.
So they're learning how to promote themselves full
Yeah.
time, and they're learning how to make up for um, what they used to make when they were working
Hmm.
to going into a full time fighter. So you got to be able to know, like, am I worth $10,000 per fight, or am I worth $500 worth per fight?
Right.
You know, you got guys on the card asking you, well, what's the payout? Well, what are you worth? You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
and and at an amateur level, you're really not worth anything yet. You're learning how to be worth something
Hmm.
at that point.
And making the jump from amateurs to pros is it's really up, your coach, yourself,
Yep.
manager, whatever you have, whatever kind of team you have around you. But
Yep.
um, being honest with your skill set, being
Oh
honest with
yeah.
your skill set. I think
Yeah.
some guys, they turn pro way too early. We talk about this all the time. We
Oh
see
yeah.
it. I see it almost weekly.
Hmm.
A guy that I know that he turns pro too early, wasn't quite ready or wasn't quite there yet, whether it was the ticket sell, the marketability, or it was the
Hmm.
skills wise, and they just made the jump. And
Yeah.
it sounds good. I think some guys just want to turn pro to say they're a professional fighter. Well,
that that's
what's that
more the
worth?
problem.
Yeah, what's
That
that worth if you're getting the wrong fights in the wrong situations and
Right.
you're getting moved too fast or no one's looking out for you or you didn't quite have
Yeah.
the amateur pedigree or background. Well, what's
Yeah.
that worth just calling yourself a pro? What's that worth, man? So, you know,
Yeah.
I always say you know, wanted to turn pro that quickly or too soon and all that, the guys, they always find out and they regret it afterwards and there's no
Mhm.
going back. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah, there is no going back. Like,
would you want to work for, it's like some guys just want to turn pro, but would you want to work for $1 million company, but your salary is $30,000 a year? Or would you want to work for a $200,000 company, but your salary is $100,000 a year?
right.
You'd want your salary to be $100,000 a year and you'd work for that smaller company. So my analogy and my correlation there is
Hmm.
some guys just want to be a professional fighter to be a professional fighter
Right.
because it's $1 million company. They
Yeah.
just want to be part of being a professional fighter.
Right.
I see it all the time where guys get moved too fast or too quickly, or they end up in the wrong situation. But also in going back to what we were saying originally about outside the ring and understand the
Right.
business but you
Right.
know, some guys jump at the first opportunity. They get offered $300 in a hotel room and all of a sudden they're a professional fighter.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and then on top of that, like, I get it. A lot of people get tired of fighting for free. I get
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
But when you're in the fighting business, you gotta actually love to fight. You don't do it for money.
Yeah.
If you're doing this for money, you're you're wasting your time,
Yeah.
because you got to be passionate about actually fighting first, and
Yeah.
you got to learn the business first.
Hmm.
Those who don't learn the business first, I promise you, ask it. Well, I mean, ask Ricky Doran, do they make it? Do they make it when
Yeah.
they, you know what I mean? They never make it because they don't learn the steps. There's steps and there's levels to
Sure.
everything that you do, and especially when it comes to a professional level of fighting. You know, uh,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely, man. And it's one of those things where it's trial by fire. You can learn from other
yeah,
people's examples or you can learn yourself.
right,
But it's really good. I think it's really good when fighters have people looking out for them, when they have
right,
coaches, managers, maybe a relative that was in the fight business
right,
themselves, and they're getting good advice and good guidance, and they treat themselves like a walking business. So
right. Well,
Always
and
appreciate it like
there's
that.
nothing wrong with just staying amateur and just taking advantage of all the amateur opportunities that you
Sure.
have. Like,
Yep.
if you do want to make some money
Mhm.
and you do want to, level up yourself on the financial side as an amateur, go to Southern Hand Slugfest,
Sure.
go to a Tough Man tournament,
Yep.
go to amateur events that do small payouts
Yep.
because there are still different levels. I know amateur fighters that have fought for you and won for you that made more money as an
Oh, yeah.
amateur fighter because they fought at Slugfest than a professional fighter.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
Like you have a such thing as inactivity too.
Yep.
People that can't find you a fight because you're 0-3, you're 0-4, you're 0-6. You ain't won nothing yet.
That's right.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
It's really easy to be like 18-0 as an amateur, then boom, you go pro and you haven't won a single thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys that won 4 or 5 amateur titles and they can't win a single pro fight,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
now once you made that leap, now you're looking at, well, now I need a pad. Now I need someone who did the same mistake as me.
Yeah.
Now you're looking for that other guy that made that jump too quick, that's in your weight class that you can hopefully get a win over to
Mhm.
get you a win on your record as a pro.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's an interesting dynamic and it is
yeah,
a business, and I just yeah, yeah, we do $2,000 payouts, $2,500 payouts. We have $3,000, $4,000 tournaments
yeah,
upcoming this year, and it's growing more and more. But I've seen a lot of pro boxing, pro MMA, and even BKFC. Um,
yeah,
Low level pros, guys within their first 5 fights of being a professional, all that. And I
yeah.
think people would be amazed at what these
Oh, what
guys,
they're making. Yeah,
yeah, I think you'd be
yeah.
surprised. So,
A lot of
uh,
people are like,
yeah, yeah, yep, for
I,
sure,
I,
man.
I know pros, man, that fight for $500.
That's right. That's right.
Like, and
So,
people think that, oh, I'm making the big money.
mhm.
Mm, not what you think.
Yeah, and it could lead you string wins together, you become marketable, you
Hmm.
become a well-known pro. It can lead to big payouts and big opportunities and big paydays and stuff
Right.
like that. And that's a road that it's a
Hmm.
journey. You take that and you walk the ladder of the fight game and you do all that. But yeah, and that transitional period of that guy who's got some amateur experience and he's thinking about making that leap or not, those are the guys we're
Yeah.
talking to right now, being sure you're ready for that leap. And have you maximized your amateur experience? Have you done all those things to really exercise everything you could possibly to set yourself up for success. So, you know, like a guy I'll talk about real quick. And you and I both know he's fought for you. He has 13 fights with me and 2 or 3 fights with you, I believe. But let's talk about Joshua Whiteside real quick from Memphis.
Oh yeah.
Look how active he is. And
Oh my, yeah.
Josh, a year ago, looked like a guy who maybe would have thought about turning pro.
Hmm.
Maybe he's from a good gym,
Yeah.
good skill set, and all that. And look what he does. He stays amateur. He racks up another 15 to 20 fights in a calendar year.
Yeah.
And I
That's
mean,
like almost unheard of.
that it's these days it is. That's old school. And
Yeah,
these
that's
days it's
very
almost
old
unheard of.
school.
So this guy fights. I mean, he was fighting every other weekend for a while, and people know his name now because of it. And winning some, losing one. He's winning more than he's losing, but he's getting a lot of experience and all that. Josh is someone I'm proud of because
Right.
when that guy turns pro, eh, he's going to be ready to turn pro.
Right.
Let's talk about some specific training methods for Southern Hand Slugfest. 1 minute rounds, a lot of volume and all that. What are
Yeah.
some things y'all have done in the gym? You've sent me a decent amount of fighters at this point. We've been dealing with each
Right.
other for about 2 years now. What
Yeah.
are some of the training methods specifically for that that y'all have done behind the scenes that have helped y'all prepare? You've found some success in this promotion as a coach. So talk to me about those things.
A lot of things I like to work on as a coach to prepare my guys is just working on high volume and hard hitting mitt work drills, where we do burnouts, which are usually where we throw uppercuts on the same side as hard as we can for as long as we can.
Mhm.
Uh, 1, 2, 3, 2s, angle outs, high volume, very little slip movements, right? You know, you slip one, you throw three, you slip two, you throw five type drills.
Mhm.
Um, Forward pressure drills, learning how to circle and learning how to come forward. And you find out when we do this drill, you never end up in a corner, right?
Mhm.
So when you end up in a corner at Slugfest, what typically happens? You usually see somebody get dropped because they can't move their feet.
Yeah, you get teed off on. Yeah.
Yeah, you get teed off quite often. A lot of drills that we work on, I like to do what is called a T formation
Mhm.
drill, where we start at the wall, where we drill keeping them to the wall
Mhm.
using our high volume, using our long stiff jab. I don't believe in training on lazy jabs. Everything that we throw in Slugfest has got to be hard and it's got to make a statement, right?
Sure.
You know, making stiff jabs count, throwing hard twos. If you're a tall fighter, staying long, because if you stay long, he can't really hit you. You keeping him at the very end of your punch, so you ain't got to worry about him scoring. It's just like any fight. It's a scoring method.
Mhm.
So, like you say often, it's a 1 minute per round fight. So, it causes for a 1 minute pace. So you have to have high volume for that whole minute.
Sure.
So we drill that a lot,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
We drill 1 minute intervals of high volume on the mitts. Then we do usually 2 minute high volume rounds.
Mhm.
That way we're doubling the round. That way we're not getting tired at Slugfest. Because and then we if I have enough people, I like to do a rotation. Like, okay, well, you did 3 rounds with him at 2 minutes high volume. Let's put in a fresh guy,
Mhm.
and then like we'll jump on somebody, right?
Sure.
You know, this guy will stay in, and then I'll put this guy in,
Mhm.
and who's fresh, and then this guy who's in that's
Yep.
fresh, then this guy who's in that's fresh,
That's
and
right.
then up until you fought 4 times,
Yeah.
and then we swap it out.
Yeah. Shark Tank rounds, jumping on that guy, just rotating different, and he's getting different looks and different
Yep,
styles of guys he's sparring with
yep,
and all that. So yeah,
yep.
the intensity and putting emphasis on the 1 minute rounds is key to find success there. And also, just any fast twitch muscles. And, I don't think sprinting will never, ever, ever be underrated. I mean, it's,
Hmm.
it's so underrated. I meant to say, sprinting is just nobody wants to do them, but they always pay you back. Sprinting and getting your legs fast, explosive movements and combinations and
Hmm.
exchanges and just
Yep.
intensity is something that um, you know, I can tell after 60 seconds if a guy's in shape or not, basically in this. You know what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean? So
That and even though it's not a clinch fight, we do work on clinch drills,
mhm.
such as immediately in the clinch. Hey, if we're up against the rope, turn
Yep.
immediately. You
Yep.
know, turn, push,
Hmm.
turn, push.
Yep.
You know, because if you stay turned or if you stay clinched rather, and then you're up against the rope, because like you got to think about it, how they're scoring Slugfest.
Hmm.
It's who's got the ring control, who's coming forward, who's the aggressor.
Sure.
Well, if your back's up against the rope, guess who's got the forward pressure? The guy
Sure.
on the other side, right?
Right.
So uh, when you turn, you're all the way forward pressure in that fight.
Hmm.
Once you make that turn, all you got to do is break off and then start throwing high volume.
Yep.
So that's another big drill I like to work on, and really that's in for all fighting, not just Slugfest, but specifically for Slugfest.
Sure. Yeah, man. Well, shifting back towards True Fight series, tell me where you
Mhm.
see it heading in the future and growing. Um, if you want to thank anybody who's helped you, up until this point, and
Right.
what y'all's 2025 look like and beyond.
Well, I plan on throwing more events this year if I can. Man, I got to thank my dad, dude. Like, seriously, he's the one guy who's retired who didn't want no part of this, and yet he's a part of it anyway.
Yeah.
So you got to respect people like that. My event coordinator, Brandon Jackman,
Mhm.
he's done a lot for the company. He does more than what he probably should at times, but it's one of those type of things that you got to appreciate people like that who look out for you beyond being what their job is.
Mhm.
You know, I got to thank Timothy Dobbins, for sticking it out with me from the first year up until this year. I got to, shout out to them especially, and then all my sponsors, man. I got such loyal sponsors, man, and they to me have become family. I don't know how they feel about me, but brother, like you got to appreciate people who stick you out on your first year of business. You really do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if you don't, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Man, guys like Adam Miller, Kevin Steele, John Forsyth, the tree cutting guy, John Howell, all them guys have been really, really good to me and welcomed me with open arms. And like I can never express how much they mean to me for what they've done for me, and especially my first year in business. And because I mean, you can definitely relate. Being around the Biloxi area, when you're in that area and you start to become known, it 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 really helps grow who you are as a brand, right? So when the word gets out that you're doing right by your sponsors and you're doing right by other people, you're doing something right.
Mhm.
When you add sponsors to what you're already doing, you're starting to do something right. So I look forward to growing with other companies within Pontotoc area and maybe even Tupelo area. Who knows? I just like I really got a shout out to my day one. So and those guys are definitely my day ones. They've been there from the first event all the way till my last event in December, and they're working with me on this event as well. So I appreciate them. Another special shout out to Christy Bowens. She didn't know me from nobody. Met her at Taziki's a couple weeks ago. I got her cousin on the card, and she just was all for it. Like she didn't know me from nobody, and you gotta appreciate people like that, man. That believe in something that they don't really know exactly what they're getting into, but they feel you out.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know we get a lot of no's before we get a yes when it comes to sponsorship.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just part of the business, man.
Yeah. And that's everything in business. You get a lot of no's, or there's a lot of dead ends, and
Yeah.
the resiliency eventually shines through because you're going to get one yes for every 49 no's and stuff like that. But
All right.
that kind of circles us back to what we were saying originally about the unsung heroes. And
Hmm.
I can relate a lot. A lot of my sponsors, they just believed in me, man. They weren't even fight
Right.
fans. They
Yeah.
weren't even people who go to combat sport events. They just believed in me. And I had one guy in particular who was just like, dude, I don't even care what you're selling because it's you. I'm going to do it because he
Yeah.
could just feel my pulse. And I've had a lot of
Yeah.
people like that, man, where, Danny Tosh was like one of the first people that reached out to me, and that's Southern Style Heating and Air, the best
Yeah.
HVAC company on the Gulf Coast. People know about their shirts and their hats, and they've done all kind of good marketing at our events. And Corey Griffin, these guys, man, have been so behind me. And Michael Langlinus, Dylan McNeil, with Premier Remodeling and Construction. I can name a lot of people, but you're right, man. There's a lot of people who just uh, they believe in it early on, even if they don't
Yeah.
fully grasp or understand what you're
Yeah.
actually doing and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I've tried to go above and beyond for my sponsors. I've done ticket giveaways for them, and I've grown their followers. And
Right.
I mean, Will Bryant and Mario Perez with Quality Tent and Accessories. Goodness gracious,
Right.
I love these guys. And it's also a little bit of that hustler recognizes hustler and that
Yeah.
entrepreneurship kind of thing.
Yeah.
These guys get up, I mean, 5, 6 days a week, and they're at their craft from sun up to sundown, and they're growing a business too, you know. So,
Absolutely.
um, there's just so many people like that. Chris with Kingdom Cutters, man. There's just so many people like that that have just been rock solid. So yeah, man, that's what it takes. That's what I'm talking about the team and the village it
Hmm.
takes to put something together like this. So and keep it going strong. So yeah, that's big, man. You will get more and more sponsors. I think you do a lot of things the right way.
Right.
Inevitably, the universe
Yeah.
responds. Stuff grows
Yeah.
organically.
For sure. For
So
sure.
you know how that is. You get out of it
Even
what you
when
put into
you're
it.
right, and even like me, I'm a young promoter, and by any means, Do I ever feel like I've got it all figured out? Because I definitely don't. I am learning literally each and every event. And we
Yep.
both talked about that. You know, it's a growing thing, it's a learning thing every event. And even if you've been in this business 20 years, I believe that you still just continue to learn something new about the business.
I,
It's just
I can attest to that.
yeah, it's a
Yes.
constantly evolving and growing business
Mhm.
that you really can't even step away from and still grow from. It's
Mhm.
quite awkward like that.
Mhm.
And I noticed that because I stepped away from it, fell out of love with it, and fell back in love with it, and it changed drastically.
Mhm.
You know, it was a drastic change.
Mhm.
And it's like, holy cow, the fight business ain't what it used to be. You know, as a competitor. So it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy when you go from fighter to fight manager to coach to promoter, and then you're still doing at least three of those four things, you know, because when you're talking to people, you realize, well, do I talk to them as a promoter? Do I talk to them as a fighter, or do I talk to them as a manager? Do I
Yeah.
talk to them as a coach? Do I talk to them as a business owner? And it all depends on who you're talking to and
Sure.
how you got to respond to them. So, you know, I'm learning that part of being a promoter. Uh, who I'm talking to, how to talk to them, how to respond to certain situations, you know, all those type of things as a promoter, you know, that's helping me grow. You know, I definitely take everything you say to heart. Like when you give me a thumbs up on an idea, I'm like, hey man, I'm glad that Ricky thinks it's a good idea. I think I'm going to go for it. You
Sure.
know, a
Yep.
lot of times I don't even go off my own will. I just I ask questions. I ask people that I know more than me,
Mhm.
you know.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty important, especially growing as a promoter and you know, your unsung heroes, you know, are the promoters that want to see you succeed.
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
it's a cutthroat business out there. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's no reason everybody can't work together. And, you know,
right.
somebody else's success is no detriment on your own. It's got nothing to
No,
do
it's
with it.
not.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's got nothing to do with that. And yeah, you know, you've been a sponge of learning.
Hmm.
Anytime I've ever talked to you about certain situations or things, you've been very open-minded and stuff like that. And you know, it's like a fighter being coachable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid to advise anybody. You
Right.
can take it or leave it. I don't have an
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't really have a dog in the game. I'm just trying to help certain people out. So you've been
Right.
very open to things I've said and grown based on it. So and we've
Absolutely.
talked about the business aspect of it and all. And so yeah, man, we're counting down. We're excited. Southern Hand Slugfest 14, Survival of the Fittest, March 1st at the Jackson County Civic Center in Pascagoula, Mississippi, 2902 Shortcut Road. And we're tomorrow will be 4 weeks away, and then just 2 short weeks after that, True Fight Series 4 is going
Yeah.
on. So that's good
They
stuff,
go
man.
by quick, don't they?
Oh man, yeah, they fly. They fly.
Southern Hand Slugfest 14, just to
Mhm.
think.
Yep.
14 events already.
Yep. Yeah, I met you at 5. You came
Yeah.
to me at Southern Hand Slickfest 5. That was the summer of 2023,
Yep.
in May. And a couple months before that when you were signing guys up, but you sent me a couple of fighters and came down with them. So, but you've been great, man, all the way through. You've been honest, you've been genuine. So, I appreciate that about you, brother. And, you know that, man. But yeah, it's the fight game is, you know, we try to keep it prosperous and growing, and other people are doing their parts too. So I love
Right.
to see it, man. The more fights, the better. And the more
Yeah.
opportunities for guys, the better. So, but yeah, man, just in closing, um, just, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, brother, and keep learning and adapting and
Right.
growing, man. You've already overcame the hurdles. I mean,
Right.
really, your first event is such a hurdle within itself. You know,
Oh my
when you're
gosh.
doing it, you're like, my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
you know,
That's an understatement.
you like it's scary because every event kind of resets you.
Yeah.
So you're like, every single time you sign that contract with the venue or you get an event permit or anything like that, every single time you do it, you have to be willing to lose money. I'm not
Yeah.
saying you're going to lose money. I'm saying you have to be
Right.
willing to lose money to sign that bottom
Yeah.
line, you know.
Yeah.
And, I've told people famously, I won't, I've said it out many times publicly, so I'll say it here too. And but my first event was almost $30,000. That's what it cost
Yeah,
me, uh, and I that just all my own money. Just took a chance, believed in it, and a lot of upfront costs. So you don't know till the back end of
yeah,
things, and you got to take a risk and a gamble and a chance. So um, that's why I respect and appreciate fighters who show up and put it on the line and add to the entertainment value of the event. And
yeah,
that's why I'll never forget most of these guys who have done that. So, but yeah, it is something you have to have a lot of faith. Me and you talk about faith a lot, and just trusting God. And
yeah.
it's something you really have to just be all in. If you're part
Uh,
time at this, it's
yeah, you don't last long.
yeah, it'll eat you alive. It'll eat you alive. I can tell you that.
I tell you one thing, another thing too, I have to be appreciative of is the coaches that actually have dealt with me.
Mm,
Jake Reeves, again, Timothy Dobbins,
mhm,
Derek Nelson, Cody Harris is now dealing with me, Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu coaches, Bots Boxing, amongst a bunch of others, man. They're taking a risk too. They didn't know me. They may have knew me as a coach. They may know me as somebody else, or a fight fan, or someone in within the business,
mhm.
but they don't know you as a promoter until you've promoted.
Sure.
So for them coaches to take a chance, dealing with me the way they have, man, I appreciate them on a whole other level that they may not even understand because
Mhm.
they took the same risk I did
Sure.
in a sense. They really did.
Yeah.
They may not risk any money, but they risked who they are as a coach. They risked who they are as a gym. They risk a lot of things dealing with someone who they haven't dealt with on a business level.
Mhm.
And so when they deal with me on a business level, you got to appreciate them,
Sure.
especially your day ones like STFU, Small Town Fitness, New Albany MMA Academy, and the Columbus MMA, Relentless MMA. Man, those guys are some pretty solid guys, and uh, I hope to see a lot of their guys come to Slugfest. I think a lot of their guys would do pretty well in your bracket as well,
Sure.
and they're very reliable coaches as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Best in the business, if you ask me.
Yeah, when you deal with reliable coaches right away. Like I've dealt with coaches where they were so true to their word, man. I mean,
Mhm.
they showed up early, no nonsense from their fighters,
Right.
professional. They make weight. I mean,
Yeah.
they just I don't have to, it's just
Yeah.
none of the extra hurdles you have to jump over dealing with. Like there's been guys where, you know, at least in their debut tournaments where I've communicated with the coach and the coach reached out to me getting guys signed up, and that coach had such a good rapport with me. I already kind of knew what that fighter was going to be like
Yeah.
because that coach is that way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So,
For sure.
yep,
That's
yep.
refreshing, ain't it?
Oh
As a
yeah, I know.
promoter.
Well, yeah, yeah. Like Coach V's like that out of
Yeah.
Louisiana. Coach
Uh
Gary, there's
huh.
West Bank, NOLA, the
Uh
West
huh.
Bank guys, man. I'll tell you, like when Gary would send me somebody,
Mhm.
dude, I slept well that night. That
Yeah. You
dude's
can
gonna
almost
show.
bank on it.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
guy's gonna show up. I'm telling you, he sent me, I mean, close to 10 fighters and different
Right.
weight classes at different times and different tournaments. And every time they were accountable and they were amateur fighters, but they were professional.
Yeah.
You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Those are the
certain
ones that
guys.
eventually make it to a pro level, though.
Sure, sure.
Believe it or not, man.
Yep. Yeah,
The
if they
people
want
that,
to.
yeah, the people that act professional as an amateur, they're and actually take the time. Like we talked about Joshua Whiteside. I appreciate guys like Joshua.
Mhm.
Well, let me tell you, and I think every promoter can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys
Yep.
like Bunkley, really
Yep.
guys from Bots Boxing and Memphis Judo and Jiu Jitsu too. Like just
Sure.
all of them guys are pretty solid.
Yep.
I can't even think of one that isn't, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Bunkley's great. I ain't got to worry about Frank. He's one of my champions. He's got
Yeah,
12 fights with me. And
yeah,
and Whiteside's got 13 fights with me. And Yeah, they're just fighters. They're real
Yeah,
fighters, is what it is.
right.
So,
Yeah.
you
That's
can
what you need in promotions. The real fighters, those are the ones that make promotions. The
sure.
promoter, I tell people this all the time, and I'm very sincere when I say this. Promoters don't actually make the promotion. It's the fighter.
Hmm.
The fighters are what build the promotion. It's
Yep.
those high level knockouts. It's your Brandon Conways. It's your Moses Sanders. It's your what I'm saying. Those
Mhm.
people that holy cow, they're coming to see them. That your
Yep.
Brandon Pentons,
Hmm.
your PJ Taylors,
Yep.
them type of guys.
Yep.
That's what makes, True Fight Series, Southern Hand Slugfest. That's what, your Chuck Liddells, you know, that's what made the UFC, your Chuck Liddells, your Dan Severns, your
Mhm.
Don Fries, your Ken Shamrocks,
Mhm.
all them guys that were true fighters that showed up, that fought whoever, however,
Mhm.
they build the promotion.
Yeah, those are some of the pioneers, man, and they laid the
Yeah.
foundation. And all the guys you named, they all have many fights with me. They're all fantastic. They always
Yeah.
have a home here as a promotion, and they've just guys like that. Just getting to know them too as people is so great
Hmm.
too, beyond just events. Or I love when I see one of them. They're not even competing that night, and they come to one of the events just to support, man. And so it's cool.
Yeah.
It's created this real organic spiderweb effect of a fight family. And so
Right.
that's been very enjoyable to know these guys on that level and getting to know some of their families and all that. And just,
Hmm.
it's been a great byproduct and a beautiful side effect of getting into all this is meeting great people, dealing with great people and great coaches and great fighters. And that's also been a hidden joy in all this, just getting to know genuine, authentic people and bonds, relationships, and memories that last, man. They last. I remember very specific things about every single one of my events. They're burned into my membrane and how
Right.
people reacted to certain things. And that's
Hmm.
why I'm such an encyclopedia for statistics and all that and
Yeah.
what I do and all that. Cause I actually remember who did what and when, where,
Yeah.
and all. I actually remember all that. I keep receipts, man. And,
Yeah.
so that's
Well,
just
they're precious to you as a promoter, you
sure.
know.
Yep.
It's like it's almost like a family event like Christmas of 2013. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
you remember certain things because they mean special, more special to you.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
And
I can attest that since being a part of Southern Hand Slugfest, these are memories I'll remember for the rest of my life.
sure. Yeah. Yeah,
So
man.
and I can only appreciate Slugfest even more because I get to be a part of it all the
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
Seeing the True Fight series logo on the banner, that just that's something I can say, I did that,
Yep.
and I was a part of that, and
Yep.
I can sleep well at night that I made a right choice.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah, you always will be a part of it, man. Even if you get out of coaching, you're still a part of it. It doesn't matter. You know
mhm.
that. And yeah, man, it's just going to be onward and upward. So a lot of great people
Right.
involved, a lot of momentum heading into this new year. New names are going to emerge. Some guys
Mhm.
are really going to solidify themselves as being some of the best amateurs. Uh,
Right.
in the southeast in the circuit. So looking forward to it. A lot of exciting stuff to still announce. And but I appreciate your time, brother. You want to say
Yeah,
anything
man.
else signing off, man? And, I'm all ears, and I appreciate the talk as always.
Absolutely,
Whether
man.
it's being recorded or not, we have good, deep conversations that
Yeah.
I think we both grow from. So that's something I appreciate a lot.
Yeah. One last thing that I want, the people that might be watching this interview, if you don't get anything from me ever again, I want people to know that the biggest aspect of my life was having a relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, um, I I strongly urge you to try him out. And he's a lot of the reason why I'm even a success today
That's
is
right.
because I've been saved. I put my trust in him. I put a lot of trust in him going into this promotion. It took a lot of faith, and not just faith in myself, but faith that God had his best interest.
Yeah,
There's a lot of times where I thought, God, if this ain't something you want me to do, hey, let it fail, and it
sure.
hasn't failed yet.
Yep.
I'm steadily doing events, and I enjoy what I do, and I thank God for standing by me every time. So for those that don't feel like you have a support system or have anybody in your corner, try Jesus Christ because he's always there.
That's exactly right. That's the most important thing that was said on this
Mhm.
entire discussion. And I'll just end on this. The more I talk to God, the better my life gets in all aspects. I
Absolutely.
can tell you that for a
Yeah.
fact. So thank you, brother. God bless. Onward and
God bless
upward.
you,
Thank you,
brother.
man. All right,
Yep.
brother.
Love you, man.
Thank